Conker's Bad Fur Day was the last Rare game released on the Nintendo 64. It was quite a bizarre and colorful adventure. The world of Conker's filled with oddities, strange creatures, and you guessed it, mysteries. My brain latched onto some things, and now I have questions and theories. This is the mysteries of Conker's Bad Fur Day. The Reaper's hand is giant? When you die for the first time in Bad Fur Day, you meet Greg the Grim Reaper. He gets a little miffed to hear you're a squirrel and says that squirrels are a special case. They can have as many lives as they think they can get away with, whatever that means. So upon collecting a hanging tail, we are put back into the level. But that's when you notice the Grim Reaper's hand is ginormous. Why is it so big? Greg was our size, if not a bit smaller. Is it his hand, or is it someone else's? If so, who else's could it be? If Greg can be giant, why would he present himself as small and use a megaphone to change his voice? Why not just transform? Maybe he was just whatever size and look makes the person feel comfortable? And when in the physical, he takes on his true size? Or maybe it's another creature entirely. Peep the eyes in the background. Banjo and Kazooie in the Cock and Plucker. When inside the Cock and Plucker, you can see a brief cameo of Banjo as a stuffed head above the fireplace and Kazooie as an umbrella handle in the closet. This is especially disturbing because Banjo and Conker are friends. If you haven't watched my Tale of Two Berries video, which you really should, in that video, I theorized that the events of Bad Fur Day are in an alternate timeline with the original Conker timeline from Diddy Kong Racing being in 12 Tales that we never saw. So I don't believe that's our Banjo, but a Banjo from a timeline where Grunty wins, turns beautiful, and stuffs Banjo's head. It's important to know this is also not the same mount as in Grabbed by the Ghoulies, but we'll get to that game at a later date. What's so great about that hive? At the beginning of the game, we meet Mrs. Queen Bee. She's sad because she lost her hive to the wasps, so we go and get it for her. A few things I notice about this hive: it's dripping honey, it's not that large compared to her, and it's filled with weaponry. If this is her home, it's a tight freaking squeeze. It's implied her husband lives with her in it. No wonder the king says he couldn't fit in the thing anyway, implying she's fat, but this thing is tiny and filled with guns and rockets. The freaking wasps have this giant hive and the bees have this little one, and the wasps steal it? Talk about petty. I don't really understand. Where does the Mighty Pooh get flushed to? After one of the most epic boss fights in gaming history, the Great and Mighty Pooh is flushed down into a hole. But where does that hole go? Did the Great Mighty Pooh get shrunk down? Did he stay big? Did he get dumped somewhere? No pun intended. I personally would have loved to see him show up later in the game as the small but still Mighty Pooh, or in a potential sequel. Does he get watered down and fill these pipes? It really seems like he gets whisked off to somewhere else. Do all Poohs go to heaven? Why does the baby dino have a diaper? The quick answer is this is a baby. But think about it. It comes out of the egg with this diaper on. Who puts it on? Are all of these dinos born with a diaper? Is it even a diaper, or is it part of his body? Is there a breed of diaper dinos out there in the rare universe? The evidence points to yes, there is. The monk goblins. I can't be the only one to wonder about these mysterious guys that randomly show up places. They're always reading these stone tablets religiously, and if we hop on them, they tell us to get off their stone and throw us with it. What cult are these guys a part of, and what are they reading on these stones? Since they make quite a few appearances in the Ooga Booga chapter, and they use these stone tablets, I think this is where they originate. It makes sense with them being lizard-like as well. They worship the giant dinosaur dragon head thing in this chapter. The same one we accidentally sacrificed the diaper dino to, which was really sad. The Weasel King. Throughout the game, we get a narrative of the Panther King ruling the Panther Kingdom and the squirrels being at war with the teddies. Through Count Batula, we learn of the alliance of the Panthers and the squirrels, and that it was unsuccessful. We can find further information about the previous war dubbed the Milk Wars from Conker's manual. And it's here we learn the Panthers and squirrels were allied against the Weasel King. Once defeated, the Panthers betrayed the squirrels for Conk and forced them to live in the dark place while they take over the kingdom. The Weasel King, when overthrown, had his legs torn off by a panther, which is why he sits in a hover chair and is now the servant of the current Panther King. That's right, Professor Von Cripplesec is the Weasel King. It seems implied that the wars were long ago by Count Batula. I believe Cripplesec has lived so long due to his machinery and replaced his body parts with robot parts. He's been tinkering with the teddies after all. The Fleeing Villager. In Count Batula's mansion, you encounter tons of undead squirrels, but in the main dining hall, you find a regular squirrel amongst the bunch. As you approach him, he starts running, and if you follow him, he runs to the outside where there's a bottomless pit and he flings himself into it, seemingly offing himself. I bet this is a victim of Count Batula who escaped and is trying to get out of the mansion, but he ultimately decides this way is a better alternative to die than being sucked dry by a vampire. It's a small detail in the game, and it's easy to miss. The little girl. Okay, this boss confuses me. Is it a little girl taking control of a giant Teddy's robot thing, or is it the Teddy's thing controlling her? She claims she's the brain and he's the brawn, but they act independently even when separated. So I guess one isn't required to make the other function? But then why does this little girl want to destroy us? Why is she evil? Did she establish a mental connection with the Teddies and then it morphed her brain? She talks like she's possessed. It's such a bizarre fight. Was she a real girl? Is she a puppet? Was she always attached to this thing? How did it happen? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Cripplespec, you sick son of a gun. Oh, and also apparently her name is Reagan, according to the wiki, but I have no idea where they got that information. How is Marvin the mouse alive? At the end of the day, Conker becomes king and we see all the friends we made along the way show up in the throne room. One of them is Marvin the mouse, who previously exploded to bits from overeating living cheese. That's just it. He exploded to bits. He's all stitched back up together and acting normal. I don't believe Marvin is the same. I believe he was recreated like the Teddies and has some sort of evil programming we just don't see. But we may have, in the potential sequel that never saw the light of day, Conker's other bad fur day. Keep in mind, we never see the professor officially die, just sucked down into space. And if he's machinery, he could still be out there. Well, that's all I have for you. If you enjoy these videos, please drop a like to help spread my content, and subscribe if you haven't, because there's plenty more where that came from. Until next time, have a good one. Jiggylookback!